Potential Tropical Cyclone number 9 has officially hit the game board as of the 5 o'clock update from National Hurricane Center. And while there are still a high level of uncertainties with this system, one thing is a near guarantee. We are likely going to see our next named storm hit the board within the next 24 to 36 hours. We will probably have Tropical Storm Imelda before this upcoming weekend is finished, and I have all the latest information for you today. Thank you to those of you who tuned in for yesterday's live discussion. Thank you to all the new subscribers that we have garnered during the beginning of this potentially active phase out there in this backloaded hurricane season. And I have a couple of details I want to share with you at the very end that further supports the theory that we have to also keep our heads on a swivel as we wander through the month of October. Quick usual housekeeping. If you are brand new to the channel, please kindly consider hitting that subscribe button. I would love if all of you watching right now, yes, I'm looking at you, please give that like button a little nudge. Let's get the algorithm back on this channel's side. Unfortunately, there's been some natural ebbing and flowing. I think that quiet phase in the tropics kind of zapped some of the momentum that we were working hard to build, and I need all of your help to try to reinvigorate that a little bit. Share this information with folks you believe would benefit from it, as well as drop me a comment in the comment section down below. Let me know where you are tuning in from, please. I really want to know this time. Let me know if you're watching from down there in the Caribbean, the Turks and Caicos, the Bahamas, if you're a Central Floridian like myself, or if you're up in the Carolinas, portions of Georgia, up the eastern coastline of the United States. I particularly want to hear from you all, but wherever it is you reside, please drop me a line. Feel free to say hello, even if none of this really pertains to your immediate neighborhood, all right? So let's go ahead and get in here. This is the National Hurricane Center homepage, and here it is. There is PTC number 9. This is the first advisory as of 5 o'clock this afternoon. Winds found within the system, I'll say, not necessarily a closed and very organized center, but winds within the system are around 35 miles an hour, and National Hurricane Center is patiently awaiting for this system to really tighten up and consolidate as it lifts away from Cuba over the next 12 to 18 hours to finally pull out that tropical depression designation. Central pressure coming in on average about 1,008 millibars, moving northwest at 9 miles an hour per reconnaissance aircraft who have been circling this system and taking environmental samples for an extensive period of time. They are sampling the living daylights out of not only the system itself, but the local environment to try to help us out, throw us a bone as best as they can. Then on top of that, we've got Major Hurricane Humberto. You know, I will say this. Despite the hostile background state that we've seen through the Atlantic, we've been somewhat slow to start. A lot of folks voted off the hurricane season back in the month of July, very early August, and as we get ready to rock towards September, I will say one thing is for certain, despite all the hostility out there, when this Atlantic basin actually performs, we get quality. Very quickly, rapidly intensified into our third major hurricane of the season. Every single hurricane we've had so far this season has gone Category 3 or above, and I really do think, based on the satellite representation of this storm, we could be looking at another Category 5, and thankfully this one is probably going to stay far away from everybody, so we can just rack up some really good stats for this hurricane season. Let's take in for a closer look. This is Humberto. You can see it really taking on that look. Earlier this morning, we started to see those trademark hot towers rapidly rotating around a center that eventually opened up into an eye and a pure eye wall core of convection. And now we are off to the races. This thing is trudging off towards the west at about 5 to 7 miles an hour. Extreme levels of outflow on the north and eastern side, and you can see very healthy inflow on the west and south side of this system. It's really wrapping up and fast. I would not be surprised if we see a Category 4 by tonight, and then we'll have to wait and see. I really do think this thing is in the running for Category 5 intensity. There's really nothing to stop it. There truthfully is, and you got a little bit, maybe a bit of westerly, northwesterly wind shear over it, but as you can see, with as fast as this thing is rapidly deepening and explosively intensifying, we're really not going to put a cap on this just yet. So I would honestly say, and especially since this will stay far from everybody, I will objectively say, in my professional opinion, the ceiling for this is another easy Cat 5. I would personally say so. We're probably going to have a Category 4 by tonight if it's not already approaching that. Right now, deepening on average 5 to 10 millibars every other hour, and we will likely see 157 miles an hour sustained and above that by the overnight hours of tonight into your Saturday morning. Now, here is PTC number 9. I have the loop slowed down a little bit, and I completely forgot to open up my Epic Pen. Excuse that. Let me get out of the way. This system is going to be very tricky. We've had pockets of thunderstorms firing in different areas of not only the southwesternmost Atlantic, but the upper periphery of the Caribbean. We have a couple of little embedded spins. It looks like there might be one trying to develop here. There is definitely one somewhere present in through here. A little bit of a weak spin now actually due south of Cuba, and then we also have what's left of our mid-level circulation that's trying to finally move over portions of Hispaniola there, Dominican Republic and Haiti. So it's still a bit of a toss-up as to where this thing is going to truthfully consolidate, but if I had to put my money on it, it looks like we are starting to get some closing off right in through here. Whereabouts our best track analysis has this feature. And it does look like, even though National Hurricane Center has this thing lifting up towards the northwest, we're kind of moving a bit more to the north-northwest, to tell you the truth. I think we're at about a compass heading of maybe 320 to about 340, somewhere in there. If you were looking at a compass rose and you find those angles on the compass itself, that would be northwesterly, if not biasing more of north-northwesterly. And I do think we're just going to generally track off in this direction for at least another 24 to 48 hours before we finally get picked up by this approaching trough and surface cold front that's going to bring some disturbed weather to Central Florida as we go through tomorrow afternoon. Here is the latest cone. So technically speaking, outside of the 5-day mark, Florida, northeastern Florida is inside the cone. But where I really want us paying attention is going to be the coastlines of Georgia and South Carolina. Most of our computer models and what's left of our hurricane models are really pinpointing the potential for Georgia or South Carolina or a combination of the two to receive a hurricane from this feature. Notice that the cone becomes almost a perfect circle once we get beyond 2 p.m. on Tuesday, because our models are very, very back and forth with this. Earlier this afternoon at around 12 Zulu, we had our HAFS A and B suites come in, as well as the H-Wharf and the H-Mon. I can't show you those now. Since we just had an upgrade in the classification of this system, they have scrubbed the hurricane models, and they're going to rerun them, I would imagine, by about 0 Zulu. They'll probably plug in some of the fresh data that we've gotten, so we may have 0 Z models, but as of right now, I can't even pull them up for you. It's not that I don't want to show you. We just physically can't, because they once again have pulled them from the lists as we go ahead and reclass the system to a potential tropical cyclone, and it could even go up to a depression very early tonight, if not first thing Saturday morning into the afternoon hours. But regardless, because of this, we have tropical storm watches and tropical storm warnings in effect for the Bahamas. So now we've gone to DEFCON 3 of the hold on to your butt scale. If you've been following me long enough, you know exactly what that means. We're starting to make our preparations. For our folks in the mainland United States, this is where you need to finish up your planning phase. There's 3 steps to this. You plan what your preparations will look like, then you start to prepare those preparations, and then you execute the plan alongside those preparations. Those are the 3 stages of maintaining your situational awareness, and that is my Air Force training as well as my naval training speaking to all of you, and I hope that you can take something away from that. So we very well will have tropical storm conditions continuing for the Turks and Caicos, and especially the central and northern Bahamas. We are probably going to see those warnings expanded upon as we go through the day tomorrow, and then we may even see tropical storm watches issued for the east coast of Florida, depending on how strong and how quick this feature is to intensify. The HAFS A and B models were certain that we may have a Category 2, albeit a very sloppy Category 2, moving up the eastern coastline of Florida, which will throw some dangerous rip currents. We will likely see a very low grade of storm surge, not a whole lot, but mainly just because of that onshore flow wrapping back around the west side of the system. You'll have the easterly flow buffeting areas like Volusia, Brevard, Flagler, further to the north from there on the east coast of Florida. And then on top of that, depending on if this shimmies to the left or shimmies to the right, we may even see actual impacts in terms of hefty beach erosion and actual onshore flow in terms of our showers and thunderstorms with this. Some of those could even try to go tornadic, even though we're not on the dirty side, the leading edge, the right front quadrant of this system. And then if this system does try to stall out, earlier today, models are starting to suggest the Euro AI, HAFS A and B, that this thing may even stall out over the southeast and up into the mid-Atlantic. We could have a horrendous flood event on our hands. We're not even too concerned right now about the surface winds with this feature. The tornado risk, the storm surge risk, and the water with this feature do seem to be the top priorities, and we're going to continue to watch this over the next 48 hours to dial in exactly not only whether or not we see the stall, do we see a clean-cut impact, or do we actually just rip out to the right-hand side and head off into the Atlantic? Because when you take a look at your track guidance, we're once again seeing that fork in the road. We have three possible solutions here. We have the stall there. You can see how some of our track guidance just kind of stops. Then you have a bit of a bifurcation to the right, and then you can also see a number of our ensembles, or I should say track models, including the TV Con and some of our HAFS A and B models tracking towards the left. So right now, confidence is very much so going up. The Carolinas and Georgia will receive some more direct impacts from this feature. Florida could more so be faced with coastal concerns, coastal issues, and heavier rainfall right along the immediate beaches. We'll have to watch for the rip current risk, the high surf, and the beach erosion, especially the areas that are still continuing to try to pile back on from previous storms. But right now, Florida, you don't want to take your foot off the gas either, because we could see a close scrape from this. What I'll leave you with this system, I don't want to spend too much time on new PTC number 9, mainly because we got to wait for our fresh batch of model data. Since we've reclassed it, we don't have a lot to go off of right now in terms of our higher resolution model data. And I know a lot of you have probably seen somewhere on social media the GFS, the Euro AI. The ensembles are still showing a fairly hefty spread, and this is them consolidated all together. This is a combination of our Euro, United Kingdom, GFS American ensembles, and the Canadian ensembles, and you can see our highest bit of confidence is tracking right in through here. And then we see that enormous spread, an extremely enormous spread, as far right as even to the southeast of Bermuda. So the track uncertainty will start to go really downhill after the first 3 days. The first 72 hours are more or less locked in terms of wandering northwest and then eventually more northerly, ebbing and flowing to the left and to the right, depending on what our upper low and our cold front does as it sweeps across the southeast. Then we also have to track the progression of major Hurricane Humberto and the rebuilding subtropical high pressure that's currently positioned around Bermuda that was tugged back into the picture by post-tropical cyclone Gabrielle. So I know it may seem like we're performing a bit of a lackluster update for you all today, but we have a new track, we have a cone, we have our ensembles here, and we're still working to dial everything in. Recon crews are actually out there, even at this very second, still sampling the large scale. It's called the synoptic scale environment to plug in for the 0Z model suite that we will receive later on tonight between 11 p.m. local time and about 1 a.m. local time. And that could be as we get closer to designating this as a tropical depression. And now where are we going to close out the video? I want to show you this. These are our Euro weeklies. And I want us to pay very close attention to not only what's on the board right now, because this is one of our more impactful setups, but check this out. As we wander into the month of October, we start to see another reinvigoration of not only the MJO pulsing across the Atlantic basin, bringing off tropical waves, but look close to home near the Caribbean and the Bay of Campeche. I really do think we're starting to see the more bona fide, the more cut and dried gyre setup. The AI models are all picking up on it, and this is that broad counterclockwise spin that rotates through southeastern Mexico, over the Yucatan, much of the entirety of Central America, and then back up through the Caribbean. You can usually tell the difference between a phantom or a rogue spin-up of the large-scale gyre. This one is very, very textbook. All of our models are showing that large-scale spin, and then it's just a matter of, do some of these tropical waves meandering off of the coast of Africa make it into that gyre, or do we see something similar to Helene and Idalia of 2023, where we borrow from the Pacific monsoonal trough, which is what the GFS, the Euro is starting to pick up on it now, and especially the Canadian ensemble levels are showing. This is valid for the 6th through the 13th of October, and then when you go past the 13th, which is right around the date and time frame I'm pinpointing, starting at around the 7th all the way to the 15th, look at how we really light up down there in the Western and Central Caribbean. We're going to have to watch that very closely, and then even out towards Halloween, we stay lit, as some of the younger folks are saying down there, for the Greater Antilles, Central America, and unfortunately, to tell you the truth, given the pattern that we have been brutally stuck under, anything that forms down here is most definitely going to lift somewhere towards the north. So just putting that on your radar as we move through time. I know we've got a lot of ground to still cover over the next 3, 5, 7 days to start looking at September. I looked at the calendar just below me here. To even begin looking at October, but this is that time of the year where we're going to have to just kind of, hold on to your butts. And that's that. Thank you all so much for watching today. I really appreciate you tuning in yesterday, and thank you for checking us out on your Friday. I hope you've had a fantastic Friday. Happy Friday. I didn't even get a chance to say that in the beginning because I wanted to get everything off my chest to you all for the latest tropical update, and we will see you again sometime this weekend, probably on Sunday. Tomorrow looks like a very busy day for me. We're expecting some potential strong storms here in Central Florida, so duty calls, I will be busy, but I will also provide you with updates on other social media platforms and here via a community post so you all can hear my thoughts as we go through the day Saturday. But until next time, I hope that your weekend is going to start off on a very bright note. Stay safe out there, and we'll talk again soon. But until then, this is Weather Center Nazario, signing out.